From immigrant to millionaire. The American dream journey. Maria stepped off the rickety bus and onto the cracked sidewalk of New York City, clutching a tattered suitcase that barely held her few belongings. Her heart pounded, not just from the long journey from her tiny village in Mexico, but from the blaring chaos all around her. Neon signs buzzed overhead, flashing wild colors she'd only seen in pictures. The deafening hum of horns, shouts, and sirens slammed into her chest like waves. This was no quiet town. This was something else entirely. She swallowed hard, feeling her hands tremble. Every step forward was heavier. Everything moved faster here, faster than she could follow. Her dreams felt tangled in the noise, raw and fragile against the cold concrete. A few blocks later, with hunger gnawing at her, she found work in a tiny diner squeezed between towering buildings. The diner's neon open 24 hours. Flickered like a heartbeat in the night. Maria wiped counters, took orders. But the city didn't slow for her prayers or her fears. The clatter of dishes and the buzz of conversation wrapped around her like a relentless storm. Each night ended with her shoulders aching, her throat dry and scratchy, thoughts spinning louder than the turning streetlights. One evening, the diner was quieter. Maria was wiping down greasy counters, the rag sticky in her hand. The neon glow outside painted her face blue and pink. From the corner, a group of customers talked excitedly about a new startup, some kind of company promising chances for anyone brave enough to step into the business world. Words like investment, mentorship, and growth floated in the stale air. Her stomach twisted, a lump rising sharply. Could this be what she was waiting for? Or was it another dream too big, waiting to crush her with disappointment? Her fingers tightened around the rag, her breath catching as doubt crept in. Suddenly, the bell above the diner door jingled sharply. A man entered. His voice was low but steady. "I heard you listening," he said, nodding toward the customer's table. "Opportunity is hard to find, but even harder is knowing what to do with it." He paused, his gaze locking with hers. "I can help you with that." Maria's heart slammed into her ribs. Who was this man? Why did his words feel like both a promise and a warning? Her mind raced. Should she trust this stranger's offer, or turn away and stay safe in the shadows of the diner? The city lights outside blurred, the night thick with possibility and danger. The weight in her chest felt heavier than ever, but something flickered inside her, hope. The question hung in the air, sharp and electric. What choice would she make? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube canceled their subscriptions without warning. Just check out the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. The room felt thick with tension as Maria stared at the stranger, her heart racing. "I can help you," he said, the words hanging between them, heavy with promise. But uncertainty gnawed at her. She opened her mouth to respond when a loud crash shattered the fragile moment. The bell above the door clanged like a warning. A group of men stormed into the diner, faces grim and eyes. They were dressed in dark jackets, their breath taken from the cold outside. The air shifted, thickening with fear. "Where is she?" one of them shouted, scanning the room like a hawk. Maria's heart dropped. The urgency in his voice sent a chill through her bones. "Who are they?" she whispered, gripping the edge of the counter. She could feel the fear radiating off her, a palpable thing in the chaos. The stranger's eyes narrowed. "Stay back," he warned, stepping in front of her, his demeanor shifting from friendly to protective in an instant. The leader of the group approached, his face twisted in anger. "We know she's here. We need to talk," Maria, shock washed over her. "How do you know my name?" A woman from the group, standing a step behind the leader, stepped forward. "You can't run forever. It's time to come back." Tears pricked the corners of Maria's eyes. Visions of home flooded back. The life she escaped, the pressure, the expectations. "I don't understand," she stammered. "Come back where?" The men exchanged glances, frustration brewing. The stranger, still guarding her, whispered urgently, "This isn't what it looks like. Don't listen to them." Just then, the diner filled with the sound of crashing plates and gasps. Customers were on their feet, backs against the walls, fear etched on their faces. Whispers of, "What's happening?" and "Is this a joke?" floated through the air. The leader's voice rose above the din. "You're in danger, Maria. The deal you made, it's not what you think. They'll come for you and your family if you don't comply." A lump formed in her throat. "What deal?" she asked, her voice shaking. The woman stepped closer, desperation in her eyes. "You can't trust him. The man who said he could help you. He's the reason they're coming after you." Time froze. Maria's eyes darted from the group of strangers to the man shielding her. Confusion twisted inside her, dark and heavy. "What does that mean? You're lying." "No, I'm not." The words fell from the woman's lips like shards of glass, jagged and cutting. "You made a pact to get here, didn't you? You didn't just apply for a visa. You traded something precious. It's time to own up." Maria's breath hitched. Memories swirled. Forgotten dreams, deals whispered in darkness. She glanced up at the man, who now appeared calm, calculating, but there was something deeper that unnerved her. Was he her savior or her captor? The diners from before faded into stillness. All eyes were on Maria. The weight of their collective judgment pressed on her. "What do I do?" she thought, gripped by panic. All her hopes, her dreams, were they built on a lie? Just then, an unexpected voice piped up from the back of the diner. "Someone call the cops!" a frightened customer cried. The stranger's eyes widened, an unexpected flicker of fear flashing across his face. "No!" he shouted, stepping back instinctively. "Don't!" But it was too late. The sirens blared in the distance, cutting through the thick tension like a knife. Maria stood frozen, heart racing, mind spinning. The room was a storm, chaos closing in. Who could she trust? What was the truth? And in the whirlwind of voices and confusion, one question echoed loudly in her mind. Was she truly free, or just another pawn in someone else's game? Maria stood frozen, her heart racing as panic swirled around her. The diner felt alive, a breathing thing full of anxious whispers. The stranger's eyes, wide with fear, mirrored her own turmoil. Who was she supposed to believe? Just as she clutched the counter for support, the bell above the door jangled again. Not a soft chime, but a sharp, urgent sound. The door swung open, and a figure entered. A woman, tall with fiery red hair and eyes that glimmered with something unfathomable. She wore a bright yellow coat that seemed to shine amid the chaos. "Maria!" the woman called, her voice cutting through the confusion. "You need to leave. Now!" Maria's breath hitched. "Who are you?" she gasped, fear sparking in her chest. "What do you want from me?" The woman stepped forward, urgency in her stride. "I'm here to help. Trust me. You don't have much time." But the group of men didn't budge. The leader's face contorted with anger, his voice a low growl. "What's this, Brianna? More lies?" Brianna didn't falter. She whipped around, her gaze piercing through the fog of uncertainty. "Lies? Trust me, you have no idea what's at stake here." The tension was electric, thick enough to taste. The fearful murmurs of the diners faded to a tense silence. Maria's heart pounded. Was this another trap? Another false promise? Then the unexpected happened. A loud thud echoed from the back of the diner. The sound reverberated like thunder. Everyone turned in unison, eyes wide, faces pale. A man, tall and burly, staggered forward, his shirt bloodied, a panicked expression on his face. "Help! They're coming! We need to—" Before he could finish, the front windows shattered. Glass flew like shards of ice. The room erupted into chaos. Screams pierced the air as everyone dove to the ground. Maria felt the cool rush of wind against her skin, sense of fear mingling with the acrid smell of coffee spilling onto the floor. And then came the gunfire, sharp, cold, and merciless. A flash of light caught her eye, and she saw the stranger, the man who'd offered her help, fall to the ground, clutching at his side. The sight stole her breath. Confusion crammed into her mind as she realized he wasn't just a stranger. He was the man she had been too afraid to trust. And now he was bleeding. "Get down!" Brianna screamed, moving closer to Maria. The urgency in her voice propelled Maria into motion. The room was vibrant chaos. Sounds of pain echoed in the corners of her mind. "Why? Who are they?" Maria shouted. But all Brianna did was push her forward, her grip fierce. "Your past is closer than you think. You made a deal with them, didn't you?" Maria felt the walls of her reality collapse. "What? No!" Panic clawed at her throat. "What does that even mean?" But there was no time for answers. The sound of men shouting, gunfire, and sirens all meshed together. The voices of the patrons rose into a dissonant symphony of fear and urgency. Suddenly, everything froze. A deep voice emerged from the shadows at the back of the diner, the leader of the men. "You don't know what you've unleashed, Maria." The air rushed out of her lungs. "What are you talking about?" she gasped, glancing at the stranger, now lying still on the floor. The leader stepped closer, a chilling grin spreading across his face. "You don't even know why you're really here. You've been in the game since the beginning, and it's time to pay your debts." Maria tore her gaze from the man on the ground to Brianna, her mind racing. Who could she trust? What was real? Amid the wreckage, a flicker of memory ignited in her mind. A deal made in shadows, a promise given in whispers. And it hit her. The excruciating realization crashed over her. She wasn't just a victim in this story. She was the key. Maria's heart plummeted as the implications sank in. What had she done? Time froze, the world outside fading away. Was freedom just an illusion? Was she ever really the one in control? "Get out now!" Brianna yelled, shaking Maria from her thoughts. But as she ran toward the door, Maria turned back one last time, eyeing the wounded stranger. A question lingered in her mind like smoke. Had she made a deal with the devil? And what would it cost her now? Maria paused, her breath trapped in her chest. Time seemed to stop as she stole one last look at the man, his face pale, blood pooling against the diner's grimy floor. The loud shouts faded into a dull roar, and everything around her blurred. Brianna's grip tightened on her arm, pulling her towards the door. "We need to go, now!" But as Maria took a step, the stranger's eyes fluttered open. "Maria," he gasped, voice thick with pain. She froze. Against all odds, he was still alive. "Wait!" she shouted, torn between her instinct. "We can't just leave him!" Brianna's voice cut through the chaos. "He'll slow us down! We don't have time!" A surge of confusion and fear flooded her. "What do you mean we don't have time? Why are they after me?" Before Brianna could respond, the din of the diner erupted again. The leader of the group, recovering from the initial chaos, stepped forward, a look of satisfaction creeping across his features. "You're already too late, Maria. You've already chosen your side." Her heart sank. "What does that mean?" "Time's been running out ever since you arrived. You thought you were looking for a new life, but the truth is—" He paused, savoring the moment. "You're tangled in a web of your own making." The outside sirens wailed closer, their frantic sound weaving through the din. Maria glanced around, panic swelling inside her. Somewhere, deep down, she felt that weight again. The deal she made. The whispers. Had she known? "Leave him," Brianna urged, but she wouldn't budge. "If he dies, everything crumbles. We lose connection." A pair of heavy footsteps came from the back. A massive figure appeared, a fresh wave of dread crashing over her. It was one of the men, larger than the others, his face shadowed with rage. "No!" Brianna shouted, shoving Maria back, blocking her from view. But the man charged forward with terrifying speed. The diner seemed to tilt. In an instant, everything unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. With a thunderous crash, a heavy set of hands tore Brianna away. "Where is it?" he roared, eyes wild, scanning the room. Brianna struggled in his grasp, her frame dwarfed by his strength. "You're making a mistake," she screamed. "Please!" "Get off her!" Maria cried, adrenaline surging. But as she rushed forward, something remarkably strange happened. Brianna's eyes widened, and suddenly the air shifted. With a loud, unbelievable crack, Brianna transformed, the yellow coat flickering like a mirage, and where she once stood, a spectral figure emerged, ethereal and fierce. "Back!" she roared, her voice layered with a power that resonated through the diner, silencing the chaos momentarily. For a heartbeat, Maria's world shattered. Who was Brianna? What was she? The truth washed over her like cold water, and she staggered back, heart pounding. "Brianna, wait!" Maria gasped. But Brianna, no, the figure was now a force, a storm taking shape. "You were never just here to help, were you?" "No time for questions," the apparition shouted, then turned towards the men. "You don't know what she has." "Enough!" the leader shouted, but his words were drowned out by the swirling energy that filled the diner. And in that electric moment, the door burst open again. A flood of police officers stormed in, badges shining under the bright diner lights. Shouts erupted, a mess of commands and panic. In the chaos of blue uniforms and shouts, the truth spiraled further out of grip. Maria was lost in the whirlwind. With one swift motion, Brianna, the figure, swept back. "You must choose, Maria. Who will you trust?" The air crackled with uncertainty. What had she walked into? The bullet wounds? The blood? Had it all been for something much larger? Maria's head swirled. This isn't happening. But it was. And the weight of her choices loomed nearer. Would she embrace the unknown, or seek safety in the chaos? And more importantly, who was the real enemy in this tangled web? The choices laid out before her, sharp and present. Her heart raced as the sirens drew closer. The diner alive with the sense that everything was about to change forever. In that moment, she realized, sometimes survival meant confronting your own shadows. And in this diner of chaos, the truth felt just within reach, waiting for her to take the plunge. The sirens wailed closer, a chorus of chaos echoing through the diner. Maria felt the pulse of panic. Every second stretched into eternity. The figure of Brianna loomed, flickering, crackling with energy. "Choose, Maria!" she shouted, but the choice felt impossible, a weight threatening to crush her. Just then, the burly man who had attacked Brianna took a menacing step forward. He raised a fist, ready to strike. "Get out of my way!" he roared. But as he lunged, something changed. Brianna moved so fast, it was like a lightning bolt flashed through the diner. Wind swirled around them, lifting Maria's hair, and in an instant, Brianna unleashed a shockwave of power that knocked him back against the wall. The roar of the police outside intensified, but within it felt like time paused. Maria's breath caught as she took in the sight of Brianna's transformation, her form shimmering like a mirage. The room held its breath, patrons frozen in disbelief. "What are you?" Maria gasped, words barely escaping her lips. But before Brianna could respond, the leader of the men sneered. "You don't get it, do you? You're just a pawn." "Shut up," Brianna shouted, her voice echoing with authority. Yet it didn't silence the leader, who stepped back with a smirk, as if he held all the cards. Suddenly, from behind the counter, a flash of movement caught Maria's eye. It was the diner's cook, a soft-spoken man named Jorge. He had been silent until now, but he stepped forward, panic glistening in his eyes. "You all need to listen," he cried. "You think this is just a fight? It's bigger than that." But no one heard him over the clamor. The diner's walls felt like they were closing in, reality twisting and warping. Maria turned back to Brianna, confusion bubbling inside her. "What do you mean, pawn?" The leader laughed, a cruel sound that echoed like thunder. "Everything you thought you knew, Maria. It's a lie," he shouted. "You're more valuable than you know. You're not just here for a new life. You were sent." "Sent? Who sent me?" Her heart raced, panic mixing with betrayal. But before anyone could answer, the lights flickered and the emergency exit smashed wide open. Officers flooded the room, their uniforms bright against the darkening atmosphere. "Get down! Hands where we can see them!" Their voices commanded, drowning the tension in chaos. In the confusion, the leader of the men lunged for the door, darting like a shadow against the flashing lights. Brianna shouted, "Stop him!" But he was fast, and Maria felt every heartbeat pound louder as the officers struggled to catch him. Then, with a sudden twist, the leader raised his arm, a thin knife glinting in his hand. "No one's leaving. You're all trapped." A collective gasp erupted from the diners, fear echoing louder than the sirens outside. Maria's heart pounded. She was caught in the middle of a nightmare. But before she could process what was happening, a shot rang out, sharp, brutal, slicing through the air. The world went still. Brianna's form flickered, and time fractured. The leader fell, crashing to the ground. But what caught Maria off guard was not just the sight of the fallen man. It was the realization hitting her like a ton of bricks. Pointing the gun was Jorge, the gentle cook she had barely spoken to. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady, cold. "Jorge, why?" she whispered, shock rooting her in place. "Because you have no idea what you're part of, Maria." His voice was calm, but edged with urgency. "It's time for you to understand. You're not just an immigrant in search of a dream. You're part of something much darker." Her mind raced, questions flooding her thoughts. What was he talking about? What game was being played? As Maria stood there, tears blurring her vision, everything she thought she knew began to unravel. Her past, her future, it all felt like a carefully stitched lie, hanging by a thread. Was this the American dream she aspired to? Or had she stumbled into a waking nightmare? And as Jorge stepped closer, gun still aimed, but his eyes softening, the truth began to dawn. You have a choice to make, Maria. You can run, or you can fight. The gravity of his words hung in the air, thick and heavy, as Maria stared into his eyes, searching for answers, searching for hope. Which path would she choose? Who could she trust? And just how deep did her connection to this chaos run? In that moment, everything. The lights flickered once more, the boundaries of reality bending, leaving Maria standing on the abyss of a horrifying truth. Maria stood frozen, the weight of Jorge's gun aimed at the chaos around them, hardening her pulse into a frantic rhythm. You have a choice to make, Maria. You can run, or you can fight. Even as he spoke, the fear in his eyes flickered with something deeper, something she couldn't quite grasp amid the swirling chaos. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice steady yet trembling. Her heart was a caged bird, desperate to escape the bombarding truth. But before Jorge could respond, the diner shook. Suddenly, the air was thick with a jolt that resonated straight through her bones. The lights above flickered violently, a warning bell sounding that time was unraveling. And then it happened. An explosion shook the ground. The noise was deafening, an earth-shattering roar that echoed louder than gunshots. The diner's windows shattered like fragile glass ornaments, cascading down like rain on a stormy day. The world spun. Maria felt the ground beneath her feet tremble. Panic surged as the door burst open, revealing a mysterious figure enveloped in a billowing smoke, the outline barely visible. The moment he stepped into the light, Maria's heart dropped. It was the man from her past, the one she thought she had outrun. Marco! "Maria!" he shouted, eyes wild with a desperation she had never seen. The room erupted. Sirens pierced the air, mingling with the cries of shock from patrons. But all Maria could focus on was Marco, the ghost she thought had disappeared into some distant memory. She gasped, "What are you doing here?" "Doesn't matter. We have to leave!" Marco's voice cracked with urgency as he rushed toward her, ignoring Jorge. He grabbed her arm, his grip fierce enough that it threatened to bruise. "No!" Jorge shouted, turning his gun toward Marco. "Stay away from her! You don't have any right to!" "Enough, Jorge!" Brianna's voice seemed to echo around the room, strong and sure, cutting through the panic. "We're in danger. This isn't just about the past. It's about everything." "What do you mean?" Maria's breath caught as she pulled back from Marco, confused, overwhelmed. "Who are you?" But before anyone could answer, another explosion rocked the diner, sending debris flying. The sound of a fire alarm screeched like a banshee, drowning out her thoughts. The very walls shook. Jorge dropped his gun, fear painting his face. "This isn't right. We need to go now." Suddenly, everything shifted again. A blinding light burst from the center of the diner, and for a moment, Maria felt it pull her in, drowning her in memories she had buried. The deep, the promises. And then the light dimmed, revealing a chilling sight. A revelation so profound it sent waves of ice through her veins. The walls around them warped, revealing shifting shadows of a greater world, one filled with those she had left behind. Marco stepped back, eyes wide. "The truth is bigger than you know. They used you to gain access." Her heart raced. What was happening? Access to what? Brianna stared at her imploringly. "The other side, Maria. They needed you to unlock the door. You're the key." Suddenly, everything rushed in like a flood. The whispers, the deals, the hum of deals she thought were distant. And then back to Jorge, standing rigid, eyes cold. "Your innocence was just a means to an end," he whispered. "You never meant to be part of this, but you are. And now you have to choose your fate." The air was charged, every moment heavy with unspoken truths, and all Maria could think was, is this the American dream she fought for? "Things are collapsing," Brianna said, urgency bleeding through her words. "And the only way out is through." But the explosion had already set fire to the diner, flames licking hungrily at the edges. Chaos erupted, and Maria knew she stood on the edge of a cliff, facing an identity that may not belong to her at all. Who was she in this smoky mirror of desire and despair? And just beyond the flames, would she find freedom, or another layer of chains binding her deeper into a world she never chose? The flames roared higher, licking the diner's ceiling, wrapping the walls in a furious embrace. The smoke thickened, swirling like a storm. Brianna's figure shimmered, flickering in the chaos as the sirens outside wailed ominously. "Do you really think they'll let you escape?" Jorge shouted over the crackling flames, his eyes narrowing at Marco. "You're too late. This was your plan from the start, wasn't it?" "What are you talking about?" Maria exclaimed, confusion bubbling inside her. She turned to Marco, desperation in her voice. "What plan?" But in that moment, Jorge's grip tightened, his gun still pointed at Marco. "You had her fooled, but not me," he barked, his expression dark and twisted. Fear surged in Maria's veins. Who was telling the truth? Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the diner again, the earth quaking beneath them. Maria stumbled, the weight of uncertainty nearly knocking her over. Was this her life crumbling apart? "Run, Maria!" Brianna shouted, urgency coating her words. "You don't have time. The door is closing." But there it was again, an unseen force, an energy that pulsed in the air, wrapping around them. There was something in the way Marco looked at her, something sinister hidden behind his worried facade. The flames roared, reflecting off the glass shards scattered on the floor. Maria's heart raced as she stepped away from Marco. "What's happening?" she asked, panic tightening in her throat. "Why won't you just answer?" Suddenly the diner door burst open again, and in stepped a figure cloaked in shadows, like a nightmare creeping into the light. It was a woman, tall and imposing, with a glint of steel in her eyes. "Enough!" she barked, voice slicing through the chaos. "Maria, come with me now!" Jorge lowered his weapon, disbelief etched across his face as Maria stared at the newcomer, grappling with the tidal wave of chaos. "Who are you?" she gasped. "Your mother sent me," the woman replied, her voice resolute. "You're in danger, and if you stay here, everything is lost." The revelation slammed into Maria like a punch, knocking the breath from her lungs. "My mother?" But before she could process it, the air shifted again. The same unseen force crashed around her, pulling her in. The room distorted, the walls bending with it, voices blending into a deafening roar. "Listen!" Brianna shouted, reaching for Maria's arm. "Don't let them take you. They want to use you." The woman laughed harshly. "Use her? No, Maria is the key. This is why they've been searching for you. Your mother made a deal for your safety." "You don't even know the half of it. What are you saying?" Maria's heart sank as fear gripped her tighter. She turned to Marco, searching his eyes for any truth. "What deal? What does this all mean?" But before anyone could respond, the flames erupted, a blaze consuming the diner. Shadows danced across the walls, and the woman moved with impossible speed, weaving around the chaos, her eyes sharp, calculating. With a sudden lunge, Marco shoved through the darkness toward Maria. "Don't listen to her!" he yelled, desperation oozing from his every word. "She's lying!" And that's when the truth came crashing down like a wave. In the depths of the chaos, amidst the flames, Maria felt something shift. It was a pulse, a beat, growing stronger, matching her heart's frantic rhythm. The woman's eyes locked onto Maria's, piercing through the flames. "You have a choice, but either way, they'll come for you." "Who?" Maria gasped, her mind racing. "Who will come?" Then, with a deafening crack, the diner's roof collapsed, sending a torrent of fire cascading down. Maria's body froze. The space coiled in on itself, wrapping tighter, threatening to crush her. Reality slipped like sand through her fingers, and in that whirlwind, the final shocking truth struck her like lightning. Marco wasn't here to save her. He was here to bring her home. Home to a world she never wanted to face. As the shadows closed in, engulfing everything she knew, Maria stood on the precipice of a bitter choice. Did she step into the darkness and embrace her past, or run into the blinding light of the unknown? The flames roared around her, but the real fire burned within. Who would she become in this chaos? The flames roared higher, licking the diner's ceiling, wrapping the walls in a furious embrace. The smoke swirling like a storm. Panic gripped Maria's chest as she glanced between Marco and Jorge, both men brimming with conflict and urgency. Brianna's figure shimmered, flickering in the chaos, as the sirens outside wailed ominously. "Do you really think they'll let you escape?" Jorge shouted over the crackling flames, his eyes narrowing at Marco. "You're too late. This was your plan from the start, wasn't it?" "What are you talking about?" Maria exclaimed, confusion bubbling inside her. She turned to Marco, desperation in her voice. "What plan?" But before Jorge could respond, the diner shook again. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the ground, the earth quaking beneath them. Maria stumbled, the weight of uncertainty nearly knocking her over. Was this her life crumbling apart? "Run, Maria!" Brianna shouted, urgency coating her words. "You don't have time. The door is closing." But there it was again, an unseen force, an energy that pulsed in the air, wrapping around them. There was something in the way Marco looked at her, something sinister hidden behind his worried facade. The flames roared, reflecting off the glass shards scattered on the floor. Maria's heart raced as she stepped away from Marco. "What's happening?" she asked, panic tightening in her throat. "Why won't you just answer?" Suddenly, without warning, the woman who had entered the diner earlier, the one cloaked in shadows, spoke again, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop!" she shouted, staring straight at Marco. "You have to tell her the truth." "What truth?" Maria's heart pounded, dread pooling in her stomach as she looked between them, desperately searching for clarity. Marco swallowed hard, his face pale, and in that moment, everything shifted. "Maria, He never finished his sentence. A deafening explosion of glass shattered the fraying air, and a wave of heat washed over them. Jorge fell back, clutching his arm, his gun clattering on the floor. In the confusion, Marco grabbed Maria's arm. "You have to trust me," he said, his voice raw, fear flaring in his eyes. But the woman's voice rose above the chaos. "You think you're controlling this, but it's bigger than you." "What is?" Maria screamed. Feeling the panic surge as the flames grew closer, just then, a figure stood between them, casting a massive shadow, blocking her view. It was Jorge, his expression fierce. "She's right. You have to decide, Maria. The truth is..." A bolt of blue light surged through the room, crashing down like a lightning strike. Everything went silent for a heartbeat. Then, the light flickered out, revealing a devastating sight. Marco collapsed to the ground, transformed, his face twisted into an expression of pain. A dark energy radiating from him like radiance, but twisted and terrifying. Maria's breath hitched. "Marco?" His voice came through teetering whispers. "They used me to get close to you." The floor shuddered, and the shadows around him writhed. "I'm not who you think I am." "No!" Maria yelled, the realization crashing over her. "You were my friend. You can't be. They're coming for you, Maria, and I was sent to bring you back." His voice quaked, each word weighted with the gravity of his confession. The truth felt like a blade to her gut. She felt the room spin. How could he have lied, dressed in the fabric of safety, when all he was a thread connecting her deeper to a darkness she didn't want? Jorge moved in closer, his expression softening, as if sensing her turmoil. "You can't trust him now." Not after this. And that's when it hit her. A sickening swirl of betrayal, intertwined with fear. Then who can I trust? Just outside, a new wave of sirens blared, drowning her thoughts. But amidst the chaos, a sudden calm descended. Brianna stepped forward, her now stalwart figure steady against the flames. It's time to embrace what you are, Maria. There's power in truth. You're stronger than you know. Then the ground trembled once more, throwing Maria off balance. In that moment, the flames surged, and she could feel everything shifting beneath her. The weight of decisions, betrayal, and the darkness that lurked just out of sight. Could she step into the light of her own truth? Or was her only option to run back into the shadows she thought she had escaped? As the fire crackled around her, tearing at the edges of her reality, Maria stood at the brink, not just of the diner, but of her fate. In that smoldering moment between worlds, the question echoed in her head louder than ever. What did it truly mean to be free? Maria stood at the edge of the inferno, her heart pounding like a drum. The flames danced hungrily around her, casting ominous shadows that flee. Jorge, confusion etched on his face, stood close, gun still trembling in his grip. Marco loomed behind them, an unsettling weight in his eyes, words hanging unspoken in the smoky air. Maria, Brianna urged, it's time to embrace what you are. Embrace what? Maria shouted, the heat pressing against her skin. What does that even mean? Before Brianna could respond, the room rippled. The ground trembled violently beneath their feet. A blinding light erupted from center stage, drawing everyone's gaze. Maria squinted, shielding her eyes from the brilliance. An ethereal figure emerged amidst the radiance, floating just above the chaotic flames. "Mother?" Maria gasped, disbelief pulsing through her veins. The figure descended, revealing a woman who was both comforting and terrifying. Her eyes burned with a fierce intensity. "Maria, you have to listen," she implored, voice echoing as if carried by the wind itself. As Maria took a hesitant step forward, the atmosphere thickened, a chill creeping up her spine. "You left me," she whispered, hurt mingling with anger. "You abandoned our family." "No, my dear, I did what I had to." The woman's voice wrapped around her, but it felt like chains. "You cannot hide from who you are. Your destiny is intertwined with the very forces that threaten us all." The air crackled, and in that charged moment, everything shifted. Jorge's expression morphed from confusion to horror. "You knew?" he spat. "All along? What are you talking about?" Maria yelled, panic bubbling in her throat. Suddenly, the light surged, illuminating Marco's face. The eerie shadows danced. In that moment, he was no longer the friend she thought she knew. "She's right, Maria," Marco said, his voice strained. "You're the chosen one. You're meant to lead." "Lead what?" Maria's voice trembled on the edge of disbelief as the flames crackled. "Threatening to consume the very roof over their heads." And then came the shocking revelation that would forever change everything. Jorge threw his gun to the ground, hands raised in surrender. I can't let you go with her," he stammered, fear clouding his brown eyes. "Why?" Maria cried, frustration bubbling to the surface. "What do you know?" With a heavy heart, Jorge took a step closer. "I'm part of the other side," he confessed, voice barely above a whisper. "I was sent to keep you from turning into something worse, something they need to control." The revelation hit like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" Maria gasped, feeling nausea rise. "You lied to me." "No!" Jorge protested, his hands shaking. "I was trying to protect you. You don't understand the power you hold." "The power to do what?" Maria's body shook, and she stumbled backward, just as the flames roared higher around them. "Am I supposed to lead chaos or darkness? You're all saying things I can't even wrap my head around." as the tension cracked in the air. A loud crash echoed from outside, drowning out her words. The walls trembled, and the world outside began to break apart, as if all of reality was shaking in response to her turmoil. "Do not touch her!" Brianna screamed, her voice rising above the din. In that dramatic moment, everything came crashing together. The shadows began to collapse inward, the flames turning from red to haunting blue, and Maria felt the ground beneath her feet disappear. "No!" she screamed, the panic rising. But it was too late. Everything imploded around her, swirling darkness consuming sound. All she could feel was the deafening truth. She had a role in something far bigger and far more terrifying than herself. And as she spiraled into the unknown, a seed of doubt planted itself deep within her. What if freedom was never an option? What if she'd never chosen at all? Maria felt the air shift, thick with dread and uncertainty. The flames roared around her, and heat licked at her skin like 1,000 tiny whispers warning her of the destruction closing in. Everything felt unreal, spinning as shadows danced in the flickering light. But just as panic threatened to swallow her whole, reality lurched sideways. With a blinding flash, she was pulled into. Light and shadow tangled together, and the screams, the heat, they faded into nothingness. Then she landed hard on the ground, gasping for breath. Every emotion she had felt moments ago morphed into a raw focus. She was in a deserted warehouse, the coolness a stark contrast to the inferno she had just escaped. The scent of rust hung in the air, and her head spun, dizzy from the abrupt change. Why was she here? "Maria!" Brianna's voice echoed, now booming across the vast expanse of the warehouse. She stood at a distance, her figure illuminated by an eerie glow that shimmered in and out. "You made it!" Confusion gripped Maria. "Made it? Where is everyone?" George and Marco were gone. Just like that. Her heart raced. Had something happened to them? It doesn't matter. Brianna's voice held a note of urgency, but there was something else. A deep uncertainty buried beneath her calm facade. "You need to focus. This is a chance. A new beginning." New beginning? Maria shook her head, still disoriented. Her mind raced, piecing together fragmented memories. The diner, the flames, the choices narrowing before her. But Brianna cut her off. "Listen, your past is what they're after. The truth is coming." Before Maria could respond, the air shimmered violently. A door creaked open slowly behind them, revealing a figure shrouded in darkness. Maria squinted, trying to make sense of the shadow creeping forward like a predator. Suddenly, the figure stepped into the light, and Maria's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. "Mom?" she whispered, disbelief washing over her. But how? Her mother's expression was a mixture of concern and triumph. "You don't understand, Maria. I had to keep you safe. You don't know the power you wield." "What power?" Maria asked, feeling a lump form in her throat. "You left me, and now you show up like this?" "Because it's time for you to reclaim what is yours," her mother said, taking a step closer. "They've tried to manipulate you for their gain." The shadows morphed around her mother, swirling as if alive. It was mesmerizing and terrifying. A sudden realization hit Maria like a slap. She wasn't just facing the remnants of a dark past. She was being drawn into something immense. "Mom, what's going on? Who are they?" Maria punctuated her question with a sudden sense of urgency. But before her mother could reply, the ground shook and the walls around them rattled violently. The noise swelled, signaling an approaching storm, something vast and threatening. Maria stumbled, fear snaking through her veins. "Get down!" Brianna yelled, pushing Maria away just as the roof above them cracked ominously. Then came the explosion, a blinding flash that consumed everything, reshaping reality once again. When she opened her eyes, the warehouse was gone. Maria found herself suspended in a space of brilliant light, surrounded by hazy images of familiar faces. Their eyes held secrets she had long buried. And at the center of it all was Jorge. Only he wasn't just Jorge. The shadows peeled away to reveal something else entirely, a figure with glowing eyes and an expression that twisted both fury and familiarity. "Maria," he said softly, "you have no idea who you truly are." Her breath quickened with the intensity of vulnerability as the world shifted around her, the truth unraveling like a tightly wound string pulled too hard. And then it hit her like a freight train. In this world of shadows and flame, she wasn't just an innocent caught in chaos. She was a player in a game that was always hers to begin with. Could it be that everyone, her mother included, had been manipulating the strings of her fate all along? Questions flooded Maria's mind. What did that mean for her choices? Where did her loyalties lie? And who could she trust now that everything she thought she knew had shattered into a million pieces? The fabric of her reality felt thin, and as the light closed in around her, she braced herself for the answer.